Welcome to the next episode of Forza Juventus podcast. I'm your host, Enrique Ortega, joined with me.
I'm Anthony from Primo Calcio.
And what a week it's been for Juventus, from transfer news to Club World Cup fixtures to outgoings potentially. But let's get right into it. So last two matches, we played Wydad and we played Man City. So why don't we start off with a positive note if you want to take any positives from the Wydad match. Let's hear it. We won.
Well, yeah, we won. It's a positive.
It's a positive. Again, it was another Alain match. It was easy win. We won 3-1. It was a bit not alarming, but the goal we conceded was just the typical what we've seen from all last season under Mata and Tudor, is that we have those silly mistakes where a player is just free. They're able to get through, break the back line. If anything, Di Gregorio did what he could. He's been actually pretty spectacular so far in the Club World Cup. I think he doesn't get the credit he's been needing to get throughout the season. But it's just that back line is what we keep seeing. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we said after the first match, we both had our concerns. I know we were texting even before the podcast, it was a good win. But once again, second half comes, we fall on our faces. The subs make no impact. Di Gregorio had to do too much against a team like that. And the issues we thought we had defensively came to fruition, I think, in the next match we're going to talk about. But yeah, I mean, not a ton to unpack in this one. I think we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we were just kind of hoping for. I was texting before the Man City game. I was like, I'm excited for this, and then I think all the things we were concerned about ended up being true.
I think the one positive that we've seen in all the games so far, before we get into the City match, is Kenan Yildiz is stepping up. He is becoming the player all of the fans hope for. What we've seen in him, the potential, the goals he scored in the Wydad game were phenomenal, especially that second goal, which should have been his second goal, but we saw that the first goal was ruled an own goal, which, however, we'll as Juventus fans, we'll claim that as his hat trick.
He scored the goal, yeah.
Yeah. But that second goal, Mamma Mia, that was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But it really shows this kid is growing into his role. He's taking lead, and he said it himself. He is the center of this project. He is the identity of this team right now. He's going to be the future leader. And so I think it's a huge positive that we're seeing from him step up a lot more.
Well, I think the positive you were asking here was the way Tudor had set up the team in the attacking zone. Still not my favorite setup, but he was putting Yildiz between midfielders and the attackers, whereas in the first match I was kind of crowding the net, crowding the box. There was no shape to the attack. Yildiz was hanging behind a little bit, and that freed him up for almost every single goal. Every goal came off of that positioning, letting him kind of pick those balls up and make runs in behind. And if you're just all packing towards the net, there's really very little the defense has to worry about. It's very hard to pick up someone coming in late, especially in the modern game where most of the modern defenders are ball watching or ball chasing. Those late runs really make a big difference, and I think that's what we saw in the Wydad match.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the Wydad match was what we expected. An easy win, mm-hmm. more for our players to kind of mesh and gel together, and then we went to the City match. It wasn't the context of the City match was that we were tied on, or we were level on points with City, 6-6 going into the game. If we were to win this game, we'd go into the knockout stage, the round of 16, playing an easier opponent. And on the other side of it was Real Madrid, who, as we all know, we're facing tomorrow on Tuesday, July 1st. So let's hear your thoughts. What went wrong in the City match?
All the things we said were going to go wrong based on what we saw in the first match. And I'm not a big fan of our defense. I think Simone's been doing a decent job, but I don't think he should be in the center of the defense. I mean, you got a kid that's never been tried in any serious capacity as a center back before. anchoring your back line, and you have two positionally unsound center backs on each side of them. And that just got totally exposed. I mean, besides the Kalulu mistakes, I'm not a big fan of Kalulu. I know we talked about that in the previous cast, but besides the Kalulu mistakes, just in general, the midfielders aren't covering well enough for our center backs, and our center backs aren't positionally sound enough to dictate play to the outside. They're letting people come inside of them, and it's defending 101. We're not doing it, and that was just like, the easy pickings for Manchester City. I mean, it was bad.
I think the biggest issue for me was, as I said, this was a win gets you the easier match in the knockout stage, and a loss gets you Real Madrid. And so Tudor decides to play all the people who haven't been playing, who are not in form. Vlahovic leading the line. Coop Miner's behind him. Nico Gonzalez behind him. Locatelli, he was hurt. I'll give him that. He ended his season in Serie A great, but he came off an injury after the Italian team. Tudor says, let's slot him in against Man City and put Thuram on the bench and still partner him with McKennie and all that. And so what we see is what we expected for the team that hasn't been playing together. 3 guys up top out of form. Coop Miner's first game back from injury. Vlahovic is, if anything, he's making it even more difficult to sell him because I don't know. There's no excuses anymore.
No,
at all. He was given multiple opportunities, failed. Can't control the ball. Anger issues, whining, complaining. And the people behind him aren't helping him out either. And the one thing that kind of confuses me is, yes, we know Douglas Luiz is probably on his way out, but he's there right now. He's with the team. Why not try him out? If you're gonna overthrow the entire team going into this match, why not give Douglas Luiz a shot?
I couldn't agree more. Pretty much all those points there. I mean, I was very adamant that this still should be treated like a preseason tournament. But you had 2 easy cupcake teams to do that stuff against. In the Manchester City game, we haven't had a very good season, the year prior. So this is a game that, it's still a preseason game, but there's a lot at stake. There's money at stake, as we talked about. You should have won the first 2 matches with whatever line you brought out. Why are we experimenting now? When 100%, and Gonzalez, Coop Miners didn't even look good as a sub, and now we're starting him. I don't know. I mean, I don't mind him playing other guys, but that, like I said, that should have been done, against Wydad or whatever. Doing that against Manchester City was definitely just made things more difficult, and especially Thuram. Like, why would McKennie start over Thuram? You're going to bring Locatelli back. Fine, I get it. You want Locatelli on the field to cover your defense against Manchester City. They possess the ball well. Locatelli's a better fit than McKennie. You got to have Thuram instead of McKennie. You should have had Thuram there. Would have made us would make things a little bit better. But I mean, you're still going to get the brain farts from Kalulu and Kelly, no matter what. You're still going to get the relevance from Coop Miners and Nico. I mean, and Vlahovic for that matter. It was super confusing lineup, super disappointing performance. But in the end, I personally don't really care about this tournament. I want to see more guys play. But to your point, Douglas Luiz was like, that's the number one guy I want to see out there, because if any of these guys that failed last year, any of Juntali's bums that he brought in could have a resurgence, it's Douglas Luiz. He's the only midfielder on our roster that does what he does. And that's exactly the kind of player we need to make our offense even work. But I digress.
I think with that too, Douglas Luiz is not destined to stay here another season. It's written all over the walls. Everybody knows it. Rumors are all over it. But the thing is, he's the most sellable asset. He's the one that would bring the biggest return. We saw what he did in the Premier League before joining Juventus. He is a quality player. He will make a team better. He didn't make us better, one, because of the injuries. I genuinely think if we gave him another shot, he would do better. But I think the team's made up its mind. What can you do about it? So at this point, you have to. If we're willing to give Dusan Vlahovic, who did nothing all season, who is continuing, if not worsening, his habits of leading the line, and just it's all about him. And if it's not going his way, he's not going to play for the team. And if he's not getting fed a tap in, he's going to cry about it. And it's just the juxtaposition of a guy we desperately need to sell, Vlahovic. He's not staying with us under any circumstances, versus Douglas Luiz, who we want to sell because he brings in money, but he's not, in my opinion, a necessity to sell. He's somebody that can stay with this team if he just gets things in line with him. But we're not.
Does Douglas Luiz bring us actual money, though? Because the amortization from his deal, I don't think he actually brings us a profit.
He probably doesn't, but he does bring a bigger fee than Vlahovic, than, let's say, Nico Gonzalez, who also in the rumor mill. I think that you're not hurting the team by putting Douglas Luiz in. But
no, especially over like a Koopmeiners. Why would you I think you were saying earlier, like, you keep playing Vlahovic, keep playing Koopmeiners, keep playing Nico. Like, you have time and space for all these guys who never do anything, but you won't ever give him a shot. So he pissed somebody off somewhere down the line for sure, because I don't think he was that injured. There's something going on there. They want him out for one reason or another. I didn't want him here in the first place, but he is talented. He does offer something different in our midfield. He's absolutely someone we should be giving a shot to, especially right now. There's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah. I digress, though. Like you said, that Douglas Luiz situation is going to be what it is. But I want to get back to a bit of the City match. Holland is City's leading guy. Jeremy Doku on the wing. Marmouche. They have all these guys. City was one of the best teams of the last 10 years, last 6 years. They had an off year last year. So what? Pep Guardiola said, I'm going to spend big this summer. I'm going to go back on top and they brought their signings. I mean, we saw their new signings play from Milan, Reinders coming in. He was bossing the midfield. Ryan Cherky, they're signing from Lyon. These guys are making money moves. That's money that the Premier League money. That's their money, their oil money, whatever it is, they spent, and they showed that they're meant to be on top. And Juventus said, all right, well, we saw your signings. We're going to put in our top signings and see how we can handle that. And we didn't. We got smacked 5-2. The first goal, all props to City. That was a great goal. He cooked. Jeremy Doku cooked, cut in, corner, goal. Our first goal was a mistake from Ederson. Yeah, Koopmeiners scored. I don't really care. I would hope that anybody who was fed an easy goal like that would be able to score. Koopmeiners just happened to be the person to score. And then Kalulu, what to me looked like a match-fixing goal, but
yeah,
I generally don't know. I generally don't know how that happened, but it does, I guess. I think once that point, it was over. There was nothing. The floodgates open. I mean, we already know the defense, as we've been saying. The Club World Cup has shown that the defense is still not at all for a top-level club. And if all of our guys, Savona got injured during that game, so now we're down another defender with Bremer and Cabal still recovering, and Gatti still dealing with some issues on the side and can't start and can only come in as a sub. So right now the defense is in shambles. It's been in shambles, but we just lost another guy. And so that leads me into our next opponent, Real Madrid.
I mean, if we can't put, 2 years ago under Allegri, you had Rugani, Bremer, and Gatti at the beginning of the season. And that was one of the best defenses in the league. But we also had a pragmatic coach who covered them up well and played to their strengths. I don't understand why Rugani's not playing. Gatti definitely looks off, for sure. I don't know if he's injured, doesn't care about this tournament, too far away from home, whatever. I thought he was our best defender last year after Bremer went down. He's not playing that way now. But I think he needs to be in there, and he needs to work out those cobwebs. That's what this time of year is. I don't want to get distracted from that because there's money involved. We have a team we're trying to build here, and if Comoli, sees fit to keep this squad together, we need to see how these guys perform. Obviously, our defense is bad. We knew that. I knew that last year when Juntali was bringing in. I don't think Cabal's a very good defender either. I think he's a side back or wing back kind of player. But he's an option at the center back spot. So you have Bremer only, clearly above the rest. And you have a bunch of average to below average players. So we either just clump that back line up with these guys and roll with it, or we have to sign someone like now. And I don't think it's going to go very well against Real Madrid, because I think our best defender out of the three of them, and he wasn't great, was Savona, and now he's out. And then you're going to bring in whom? Gatti, who is off right now, and you didn't really give him any decent starting time to work with Savona. So now he's got to come in and figure it out against Real Madrid. I mean, our options are poor. This is a bad roster that Juventus League put together. We're stuck with it. We haven't done anything to patch it up. And here we are against Real. Now, I'll say this. I don't think Real Madrid's defense is very good either.
They're not.
So we got to fight fire with fire and hopefully be able to possess the ball a little bit.
The thing is that our defense is what it is. I think we're going up against some of the best wingers, the best players in the world with Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe, who are going to run circles around our defense.
Mm-hmm.
That at the end of the day, we just need to match their scoring, which at this point, I don't know if I trust that either.
No, I don't.
But with Kenan Yildiz coming back, probably Kolo Muani coming back in the lineup, Conceição coming back, I trust them more than anybody else we've seen on this field so far. What they've done, yes, again, Alain and Wydad are not the opponents we play in Serie A or anywhere else in Europe. They still formed a partnership. They still are learning each other better than the other three we've seen with Koop Miners, Vlahovic, Nico Gonzalez. Those three I trust to play against Real Madrid, to kind of find the cracks, to break the lines. I trust those guys. Win or lose, I don't care. I want to see those guys play. What we've seen as well, we just want to see Thuram in there. He's our midfield, our spine right in the midfield. He controls going up in that box to box, going up and down. He is able to dribble through the defense, find the pass. We need Thuram in. I think the only thing that's going to keep us in this game is actually those four, because our defense, as we know, Kelly, we all knew that was a bad signing to begin with. He's not going to be able to control that. Savona's out, so we got to bring in Gatti, who, and the rumors that there's a potential he's going to miss because he has a fever and is sick. So who are we going to slot in? Locatelli is going to probably have to play in defense if that's the case, because he can play center back, but that's not who I want in center back. Kalulu's going to have to play again, which is fine. Again, I'm not his fan, but I'm not his hater either. I like who he is as a person and as a player, but I don't know if I trust him against the likes of Real Madrid's attack. So this whole situation we're going in leads me to believe that we might see another beating, and I hope that's not the case. Alessandro Del Piero, as he said, I'm a Bianconeri at heart, but I think Real Madrid are going to win. So that makes me want to see Tudor do something different. And I think before that City match, when I saw the lineup, I was like, Tudor can't be serious. He's playing against a top European club. All he had to do was put out a lineup. I get it. He wants to rest them. But you're resting your guys to go against a team that's arguably just as good as Man City in Real Madrid. So are you really resting them to, if anything, you could have played those guys, got an easier opponent, and rested those. But no. Tudor said, I want to rest my guys against City so we can play, so they can go hard against Real Madrid. And with that, I'm losing trust in Tudor, and I already didn't have a lot in him.
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of faith in Tudor in the first place. The platitudes only go so far, and he spews those out, at press conferences, and that's great. I know that's what fans want and everything, but tactically he's pretty poor. He's very he's got one kind of way he lines people up, and we'll see who he brings in the attack. I'm sure we're going to get Kolo and Yildiz again. Who's he going to bring on the right side? That's the question. Are we going to see Locatelli to Thuram? If that's the case, who plays defense? I remember a year ago, and I'm old, so I forget if maybe it was a year when we had Allegri still, and we were going against Real Madrid in the preseason. Was that 2 years ago? That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a good performance. That was a good, edgy, feisty game. We played really well, and he just had he had the better of Ancelotti in that. He did his, terror ball, as everyone wants to call it, and it was beautiful. I loved it. It was great. Going into this one, I don't even think we can play terror ball. I don't think we can be pragmatic. I don't think we can shut them down. I don't see that as even a possibility with this group, because you don't have center backs you can depend on. I'm like I said, I'm not a fan of Kalula. I think he's tactically atrocious. Kelly's worse. And if Gatti doesn't play, who's the option? Right? Locatelli, he's slow. He's gonna get cooked, man. So I don't know. I don't feel good about the game, but it's these kinds of games that, maybe Real Madrid's not that motivated either. Who knows?
Has been the case. I mean, we're seeing. I mean, I think the best thing about today that I saw was Inter losing to Fluminense, a Brazilian team. I think that meltdown is making me happy for the time being until tomorrow to see what happens. At least if we do lose, we'll say we lost to Real Madrid and not a Brazilian team. But what we're seeing is that these smaller teams, like the Brazilian teams, are playing a bit higher level than what these European clubs are. That may be because our season's longer, Champions League, all these other trophies to compete for. Players are tired. They don't want to be here anymore. So our kind of basis of hope right now is that Real Madrid also don't want to be here, also don't want to compete. But again, they're Real Madrid. They have the pressure of having to win everything. So it's just a who wants this more at the end of the day kind of battle.
Yeah, whoever gets to lose balls, whoever wins those 50-50 battles. I mean, essentially it comes down to the same stuff that mattered when you were a kid playing. Just do the basics. Get there first. Keep them outside. Just, if you don't know what to do with the damn ball, just boot it. Just get rid of it. Do that simple stuff first and then build from there. If we come out in the beginning of the game and we do that stuff to start, I think that's a much better baseline. If we try to play it around like we know what we're doing, I think we're in some trouble. But yeah, I mean, the Brazilian teams are doing so well because they're very nationalized. This matters a ton to them. And they're outworking everybody. They're out hustling these other teams. They want it. We can do that too. That's not that hard. It's not a talent issue with the Brazilian team. So, that are upsetting all these other teams. It's an effort issue. It's a pride issue. So, Elkin's paying off our guys. Maybe that'll make the difference. Maybe that's all these guys care about. It's some extra money in the pocket. I mean, it's a true mercenary team. So maybe that'll make the big difference tonight or tomorrow night.
I think what I'd love to see a Juventus team that's competitive, that wants to play, that wants to win. But I wouldn't blame them, and I wouldn't be upset if we lost because they need the rest. We made our money from the group stage. I mean, if we get extra money, fair enough. That's great. But we made the money. We showed up. So at the end of the day, of course, I'd love to see us win. That's what I want for my team, to always win. But it's, again, I think as a consensus, as for a lot of these fans for the tournament, is that our players are tired, especially the European teams. Our players are tired. It doesn't seem, I mean, the stadium atmosphere, atrocious. It's a terrible look for FIFA. It's a terrible look for the tournament. The delays and everything, it's not going well. So if we lose, we lose. Players get some extra rest. If we win, love it, get extra money. But that only leaves us, if we lose, with what we need. And I first want to talk about is Timothy Weah and Sam Mbangula. They were left out of the Man City game, not even on the bench. They were rumored to go to Nottingham Forest. The deal's off. Neither of them want to. What are your thoughts on those two players?
Well, I mean, I think Bang Bang is a good player. I mean, he was one of our most effective wingers last year, and he's one of ours. So I understand that it's pure profit or plus Valenza or whatever, but what separates the top teams from mid-table sides is: are you a selling club or are you building something that lasts? We're a selling club, and the most difficult thing to accept is that the club is not anymore what it was before Alkin took over. We're a selling club. We're here to make money for the shareholders and make them happy. And results are the only results that matter is if we can churn a profit and qualify for Champions League. I don't think they really care about how they do on the pitch as long as they tick the boxes, make enough money for the shareholders, show growth, whatever that means. Okay, I'm not a bean counter. I want my team to keep our young players, give them time to develop. I mean, I was watching Inter today, watching Aslani again. That's why he's still, tripping over his own feet out there. But the guy's had so much time to develop. He's had time, and he's failing, but they're giving the guy time. We don't even do that. You got a couple games, sell you off. Mbangula looked good last year. He was one of the more effective players when we put him in. Someone we should keep. Well, I mean, I can take him or leave him. I think he's a decent wingback. I think that the system suits him better now that Tudor is here than it did when Malta was here, because I think he's a better wingback, if anything, because I don't think he's a terrific defensively or terrific offensively. So a safe place to put a guy like that. It's out on the wing. He can use his speed. He can run the line. That's fine. So as far as those two guys, one I'd get rid of, one I'd keep. But just in general, it's very difficult to accept that this new standard we have of just getting rid of people, just to turn a profit. And I understand why, but I don't like that my club's doing it. That's like what teams like a Lazio would do, and not, nothing against Lazio, but Juventus should be an elite club, and I don't think we have that mentality anymore. I really don't. And that's the toughest thing for me to swallow. I'm still bitter about it.
I agree. I think what was funny is when Mbangula was in form under Mata, because he didn't play under Tudor. Tudor didn't give him any opportunity. When he was in form under Mata, we were seeing rumors of, Mbangula for 20 to 30 million, rumors. For this deal that was supposed to go through, Mbangula was worth around 15 million, just a bit under that. So my thought is, if that's the market for a guy who really kind of helped us and carried us at some points, loan him out, make him go better. If anything, sell him with a buyback clause or a sell-on clause. We're getting rid of a guy who has talent, who is quick, who showed his skills. And just because we want to make a $10 million, who cares? Like, Weah, I'm fine with. I didn't want him at the club to begin with. I never thought he was that good. It was one of those very disappointing transfer markets. I was June Tuli's first signing, and he was just a backup guy. He had his moments. I liked occasionally what he did, but he was never anybody that was going to transform this team. So of course I'm okay with him going. I also think his transfer price was a bit low. Just 8 million was the rumor. We kind of talked about this last time and the time before that. It's disappointing what our transfer strategy is. It's low. We can't sell. We can't even get somebody to come here. We're struggling to get a free transfer right now with Jonathan David. And it's just more depressing every year. I think we were spoiled last summer. I think we were all happy with the signings. Yes, it was disappointing who we brought in, but it was exciting to sign people. I think that's the one thing we can take away from that. It was exciting to spend money. It was exciting. The people we brought in, that's your say, who what you were happy with, what you weren't, but it was exciting to spend money. Now we're coming into a summer where those signings, the money we spent, is now backfiring. Now we have no money to spend. Now we can't get anything. We saw the holes of last season. We saw the holes of this tournament. And now the guys we brought in, we can't even sell to even help us with this summer, with these transfer market. So it's disappointing that we have to keep falling back to players like Mbangula, Adzic, who's potentially going to go on loan, Moretti, who had a great season on loan, coming back. Apparently the rumors Tudor doesn't want him. I don't know if I believe that. I feel like that's Tudor probably taking the knife from the management and saying, oh, he doesn't want him. Let's get rid of him, when it's really the management just wants money for him. So every time it seems to be this case where we spend big money on somebody who sucks. And yet then we have to fall back to our promising. It's like, hey, you had your moment. You were good on loan. You could potentially be good for us, but not right now. So we'll see you later. We'll take your little measly pennies from you and call it a day. And we're going to spend triple the amount we sold you for somebody who's 10 times worse than you. And we'll call it a day and everyone's going to be happy.
I mean, I was very fired up after last year's transfers, and not in a good way. I was one of the few people. I thought Giuntoli destroyed this team. I thought that our roster was a couple key players away from being solid. We had good young players in the system. We had some savvy veterans there, maybe people that like them out, whatever. We were a couple top players away from making a difference. And we had a good season. It fell apart, and there's reasons for that. I don't want to get on a soapbox, but the sabotage of Allegri, love him or hate him, that happened. And all the signings we made, and I said this been saying this for a year, and I think people on X know I've been very vocal about it. With very few exceptions, the signings were a complete disaster. Not just because they weren't the right fit for the team, but because of this amortized debt that they carry. And you're absolutely right. We can't get rid of these guys now because of that amortized debt. When you get rid of Chiesa for pennies and you bring in Nico for top dollar, and Nico ends up being the absolutely average player that he always was and also very injury-ridden, who wants him? Nobody. And you paid a premium for him. So this is where we're at now. When someone comes in and people know we're desperate for cash. Like we're not fooling anybody. We can say we're big bad Juventus, but everyone knows we're desperate for cash. So they're going to lowball us on guys like Mbangula. And once again, analyzing from the perspective of understanding what's good and wanting to build a winning roster, that's one thing. That's what we do as fans. But that's not what the front office is doing. They're trying to figure out how to make that money, keep those shareholders happy. So no, if they get some money for Mbangula, they're going to take it when the offer is there and ship them off. And who knows what's going to happen with Moretti? I predict the same thing. I'm not super keen on transfer rumors because they're it's hard to determine what's good and what isn't. But I'm sure he's not going to stick around. I mean that's another plus Valencia deal right there. So you can make a bet that he's out of town too. And then we're going to be stuck with the same guys that didn't perform last year, that are average players at best, even when they are performing, maybe with very few exceptions. And this is where we're at. So I'm not excited about any of the people we're linked with. We're struggling to sign a free agent. This is pretty bad. I mean, free agency was always our bread and butter. I don't think we ever need to sign. If you have a good project, if you're building from within, if you're bringing the right guys into your team that fit your locker room, that fit your culture, that understand what the job is, I get it. We don't have that right now. We don't have a culture. We don't have guys who really care about Juventus. We brought in a bunch of mercenaries last year, flooded the team with them. These guys don't care that much. And you can see in their play last year and in this Club World Cup. So there's no core guys here that there are certainly not enough of them that when you bring new signings in, they can latch on to. So we're in shambles right now. We got to sort out. My whole thing this year was I wanted to see us get rid of all the failed signings, maybe even take an actual step back and do a proper rebuild. Make savvy, cheap signings, bring in a bunch of national-based players, Italian players, or build from within, guys from our system, and just build that way. Expectations are already low with Tudor. We don't need to go, breaking the bank or anything like that. You bring in some free transfers. I'm always a big fan of those. And Maggi was too. He was one of my, favorite transfer gurus. He was. I love Maggi. And he made a killing on free transfers. There's nothing wrong with that. So, you bring one or two guys in there and they're fitting into an existing culture. That's one thing. But when you don't have a culture to begin with, you have to start from square one. And if we keep doing what we're doing and just bringing in more and more mercenaries, think it's going to solve the problem. It doesn't matter how good the player is. They're going to, Milan had some good players last year and it all fell apart for them with that talented roster they had. So it just goes to show you have to have a culture to build from. And the guys we have in charge, they have no idea what that is.
Agreed. I think we can say that Di Gregorio and Thuram were a smash hit. Other than that, disappointment. I think too, to get back just a bit into the transfer market, we've been linked with Jadon Sancho, and that is on the contingency that we don't pay for Conceição, who I'm actually now starting to believe he should stay because of his Club World Cup, and he had his moments where he was really good, then he had his moments where he wasn't, and he was struggling with injuries a bit, and now he's coming back into that. Let's see how he does without a loan to his name, that he's a full player of Juventus, and how he can do there. I think that is another issue with our transfer strategy last year, was there was too many loans. There was guys who didn't know if they were going to stay. There were guys who had the price tag with that loan was, and all of them were obligation. I think the funniest loan that we had was technically Lloyd Kelly, who the clause to outright purchase him was if we didn't get relegated. That was never going to happen, so that made it a mandatory purchase.
Yeah, it's obligation basically.
So these loans are not adding to the culture, as you've been saying, for this team, because players don't know if they're going to still be here. I think that's the case with Conceição, and especially with these rumors of Jadon Sancho. If we do sign Jadon Sancho, Conceição's not staying because of that. And then with, like you said, free agent was our bread and butter. Jonathan David, I think that's more so his agents are probably his vice right now, and struggling. We've had issues with agents in the past. I would like him to come. We just need somebody that's not Vlahovic in the striking position. But we did get a name today. Di Marzio said that Victor Osimhen, the Bianconeri management, reached out to him to talk to his entourage to see if there's an okay from him. We've been linked with him for a minute now, but I think today was the first true, hey, we're interested. What would you say? How would you feel getting somebody like him for this summer?
What's the transfer price on Osimhen? I mean, there's once again, there's no culture to bring a guy like that into. We're not Man City. We're not Real Madrid. I think that's a signing that's way out of our range right now, especially with all the bloat of averageness on our team. I think a signing like that is someone we should have made, a signing we should have made, in June till year one, when we had a good coach, we had a good base. Like I was saying, we were only one or two players away from really making a difference. If we could have upgraded Vlahovic with an Osimhen at that point in time, that's the time to make that. Right now, we have so many holes in our team. The spine of our team is weak. The back line's weak. We decided to keep Colo. I don't think it's the right time for a signing like that at all. And it just goes to show to me how much our current management just lacks the desire to actually build something that's going to last. With like, okay, we're not going to keep Conceição, but we're going to bring in Sancho. Is that an upgrade? We have a guy Conceição. I'm not his biggest fan. I think he's a good little player, but like, we're going to not sign him, but we're going to sign Sancho. Come on, that's not an upgrade. I mean, it's just, I don't understand it at all. I don't know if they're just trying to get a new name to sell new jerseys, or if they actually really think he's better based on some data or whatever. I don't know. But at this point, you might as well just keep Conceição. He's been here. He's been playing better.
Knows the team.
He's part of the squad. I don't think he's a great player. I don't think he ever will be, but he has his moments. I mean, he has a specific skill that's pretty good. And I think he's good. And I think he said in the last one, you bring him on as a sub, and he brings that speed and that dribbling ability late in games. I mean, he does his little grimace, and he gets out there and he can put the ball in the net once in a while, or at least be dangerous, when he picks his head up once in a while.
I think the outright purchase that needs to be made, the big money, I think the money that we're willing to spend on somebody like Osimhen, if we're not just reaching out to Osimhen just for shits and giggles, like that would be a waste of our time and his time. If we're going to talk to him, we're probably going to try and spend this money, but that's not the money I think we need to spend. Getting Jonathan David on a free is fine. What that money, the Osimhen money that is rumored right now, needs to go to the defense, because it's in shambles, as we said. Bremer is our best asset once he comes back next season. There will be a big difference in defense, but it can't just be him. There has to be his partner. Gatti, I think, I've never been his biggest fan. I think he's good, and I think he can be better, but he has his faults. So I think Bremer needs somebody who is just as capable as him. We're not going to get somebody, though, that's like Bremer. Bremer's top 5, in my opinion, in his position. But we need somebody who can become him, who can be close to him. And that's where our money needs to go. And the fact that we're not seeing that, despite what we were seeing in the end of Serie A, the end of or the Club World Cup, is atrocious. It's is our management even caring about our team?
No.
A flashy name like Osman, like you said, will sell jerseys. Sure, great, money for the shareholders. What about our defense? We're not going to make money if we're consistently finishing in 4th. If we can't even finish 4th, that's another issue. If we can't even advance through Coppa Italia just for some trophy like that, it's these issues that, like you said, we're in it for money at this point, when we should be in it for the sporting project, for aiming for those top trophies that we were consistently winning 9 years in a row. So it's the priorities are so lopsided when the most obvious need right now is a partner for Bremer, and we're not doing that.
Oh, the priorities are way off. And if you go back to like June Pley's first transfer, every transfer window since June Pley's first year has been a massive disappointment. And the objective was never, ever to build a better team. And I'll get to the second transfer period in a second. But you bring in just Weah, and then at the halfway point you bring in
Carly Alcaraz.
Yeah, I mean, and Jallo. That's when your team is in the middle of a Scudetto fight at that point. You sabotage your coach. Boom. So that's already there's different motives than building for the future there. And then the second transfer window comes along. We spend nearly. I mean, I think if at the end of the year we exercise all of our loans. And I'm not including January. It'd have been about $250 million. And you spend all that money, and you have no backup striker, right? And no proper center back. Besides, so Bremer went down, so we had Gatti, and we spent all that money, but we had no natural center back to play next to Gatti. So you had to move Kalulu from right back and pretend he was a center back for a bit, and whatever other mess we did. And you offload guys like Rugani on loan. So there's never ever the intention since Alkin's been really pulling the strings to really build for the future, and that's what we're seeing now too. So no, they're not interested in signing a center back. I personally think, in general, it's difficult to find a good center back nowadays. I think they're all pretty average. It would be hard to say who I would even get that could that you'd spend Osimhen money on that's worthwhile in defense. I mean, because I don't think the 2 or 3 players that are that might be that would be a guaranteed good fit. You bring this guy in, he's going to perform. I don't think those teams would sell him. So you have to kind of the whole thing build from within. So I think with our current squad, we did have Rugani, Gatti, and Bremer that were successful at one point with the proper tactical setup. We do have Tudor, who will put Locatelli and Thuram out there in front of them. It's his duty to see that, understand what works to win, and set his team up that way. And if the management won't let him do it, they want to get rid of Rugani, they want to maybe get rid of Gatti, who knows, then there's no chance that we're really ever going to be a serious club again. And we're always going to be a selling club. And don't get too excited about transfers coming in, because the second they're worth any money, they're gone. So, and we're not always been a selling club. We were a building club.
Disappointing. That's all I have to say for right now.
It is, but they can always surprise us. The good news is I don't think any other teams are that good. I really don't. I mean, PSG, whatever, they had a great performance in that final, and everyone's going crazy. But I don't think the ceiling is as high as it used to be. I don't think we need to get to an A+. I think maybe we're a C+ right now. I think if we get to a B+, we're just fine. I don't think Inter's an A+ team, but they beat a couple really good teams on the way to the final. I mean, everyone's going crazy about Bayern and Barcelona. They beat both those teams. Inter's a beatable team. So it's there. We just need a couple decent players that give a crap to be brought in, and a coach that can actually put them in the right organizational setup. The second one's probably harder to come by since we already stuck with Tudor, but just a couple I'd rather sign 2 people who are the right people for the job than do what we did last year. Just bring in random people that we already have Conceição. We don't need that position. That's not a need. We need a center back. Let's get one of those guys. We need someone to play behind Kolo, but if we have Vlahovic playing hardball, and they got to sit that guy on the bench or something. We're in trouble with him. He's really holding us hostage right now. That makes me very, very upset.
Couldn't agree more. We'll see what happens tomorrow with Real Madrid. I kind of want to, before we end this episode, want to hear what your score prediction is going to be for tomorrow's game.
Well, last year I predicted Juventus would win every single game, except for a couple. I'm going to go 3-2 Juventus.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a bit pessimistic. I think it might be one of those 4-1, 5-1 games, just because we've seen it. But that's me being pessimistic. I'd love to see us win. But I'm okay if this tournament's over for this team. I'm kind of sick of it already.
Yeah, let's rest up, get our guys healthy. Stop. Like you said, Savona got injured now. So it's like we can't afford any more of this stuff. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I want to just go home, lick our wounds, get serious about some transfers, and figure this out. They played enough games. They know what to do when they're out there. They've been playing since they were little kids. It's enough games. Let's go home, rest up, go see your family, enjoy your off season.
Agreed. Well, that's our episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you.